Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
And good morning, March 29th. I'm John Jeffers, host, founder, executive producer here at the Contra Radio Network, welcoming you to another episode of the Jeffers Brief. We're going to start putting out more episodes now. In case you haven't noticed, quick couple notes. In case you haven't noticed, we've already got the promo vid, our first one. It's like a 1 minute, it's like a 40-second promotional video. And we're going to start putting it out there. We're going to start advertising. We're going after our audience. We're going to go start expanding our audience. This is the first step of a few that we've come up with. This is the first one we've completed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see it, you may. I posted it on the Facebook CRN group page. I'm sure some of you have seen it already. So that's what we're doing. If you feel like you want to donate to the Contra Radio Network to help us expand, get the word out. This is for preppers. It's for Patriots. It's for you. Because if you're listening to this, you're either a prepper or a patriot. Either one. There we go. And yeah, we're going to start going after more funding, more donations, more subscribers, more support. Yes, 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 yes. Because to go out there and do what we're going to do, it's going to take true believers in Contra Radio Network, but that's all right. Now, today, some of you are already at work. That's fine. This will be a fresh episode for you when you, what? Go home. On your travels back home. All right. Today, I want to talk to you about choosing your survival retreat. I found this on Survival Sullivan. It was written by Nick Otkin. I thought, you know what? It's important that we choose the correct place for our bug out location, your survival retreat, whatever you want to call it. It's important because once we decide to bug out, you cannot, repeat, you will not be able to go back to your residence. Whether your residence is a home, an apartment, condominium, whatever. Once you abandon it, it's gone. When you'll be able to go back, I don't know. Would you ever be able to go back? Again, I don't know. I'm sure it would depend greatly upon what exactly it is that caused you to bug out in the first place. But because you're going to bug out, you're going to go to another location. You're going to take your family with you. You're going to take your animals with you. Do not forget, your animals are part of your family. And I, for one, if you want to get me crazy, because I'm going to tell you something. The people that abandon their pets, whether for whatever reason, you know, it just drives me nuts. How can you sit there and be so disloyal to a pet that's been loyal to you? How can you betray that animal? And then look yourself in the mirror. Because you know what? If you're willing to do that to a lower life form, who else are you willing to do that to? Your mom, your dad, your parents, your kids, your wife? What? Who else are you willing to betray? If you're willing to do that to a lower life form that depends upon you, who else are you willing to do that to? Just a question. Between friends, just a question. Do not abandon your pets. They're loyal to you, and they can also be of use to you, especially if you're going to a survival retreat. And we will talk about that on another episode. But you want to get me nuts? There you go. Now I'm off the edge. I'm free falling, and you're all coming with me for the ride. So let's get going here. You know, we talk about choosing your survival retreat because every prepper is going to be confronted with one simple question. during a shit hits the fan event or a disaster scenario or a critical event? Should you bug in or bug out? I mean, it's a 50-50 proposition. Either you is or you is not. And there's no universal answer to this question because it is entirely dependent on your individual resources and the scenario that you find yourself in. In a majority of scenarios, it would be wiser to bug in to avoid exposure on the open road and the inevitable abandonment of supplies that is common when you bug out. But there's also be a certain number of scenarios where bugging in is simply not an option. For example, if there's an incoming lava flow about to overrun your home, or say an enemy military attack within your immediate vicinity, that would obviously be the riskier choice. That's what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So since there are certain scenarios where you will have to be bugging out, preparing for such a scenario makes sense. So one of the main preparations for bugging out is to select a bug out location, aka also known as a survival retreat. There's no denying that choosing one is not trivial. It can be expensive, and you have to consider and weigh many different factors, such as strategic importance of the retreat, the resources it has available, how many routes there are to get there, and so on. So we're going to examine these factors. So let's get started with it. So why bug out in the first place, all right? There are many possible events that threaten your life and property and force you to evacuate your home. Often, a looming natural disaster in your area leaves you with no choice but to evacuate. After all, if your home is in the path of an incoming hurricane, tornado, lava flow, then it's obvious that you need to bug out, right? So another threat that could cause you to bug out, as mentioned earlier, is, say, an enemy or terrorist attack in your region. If an enemy or terrorist force launches a surprise invasion of your home country and your home is in their path, bugging out to your survival retreat is the only option if you don't want to live under enemy occupation. An additional threat where bugging out would be a must is in a chemical or nuclear fallout. If a catastrophe happens at a power plant within a 100-mile radius of your home or city, then you will have to bug out or face being exposed to radiation, contamination of your food and water supply. Such a scenario would all but certainly kill you, even if not immediately. So several cities most vulnerable to a power plant disaster are San Clemente, California, Morris in Illinois, Limerick in Pennsylvania, Spring City in Tennessee, Richland in Washington. An epidemic that takes hold in your area is yet another threat that could force you to bug out. The goal during an epidemic is to avoid contact with any possible contagious diseases, as well as securing access to uncontaminated food and water. Bugging out is the only option to ensure that this happens in the event of such an epidemic. If your region is experiencing a long period of drought or food is becoming scarce, this is a sign you could be in for a long battle if you fail to bug out. Looters and angry mobs will form as people become desperate to get their hands on what? Food and water. In particular, your food and water. The ability to bug out to a secret survival retreat where resources like food and water are in greater abundance could keep you protected from starvation, dehydration, and the desperate raiders looting your neighborhoods or your former neighborhood. So what is a survival retreat? Your survival retreat, your bug out location, is the location where you plan to bug out to. In its simplest form, it's your evacuation destination. But a survival retreat is more complex than just a destination or location. Now, here are some other factors that make a survival retreat a true survival retreat. It's within walking or driving distance of your current home. It has storage space and living quarters. It's in a remote area, or at least a far distance away from civilization. There are multiple routes to use from your current home to your retreat. It's located on a plot of land that you own. Reviewing the above list of criteria may make you think of a few places that could be used as your survival retreat. Now make a list of those locations as potential survival retreats. In the rest of this article, we will consider several additional factors which will help you to narrow your choices down to the best survival retreat for you. Water. Numero uno. The number one resource you must have. Remember, you can live longer without food than you can without water. Water is something you must have. For you new preppers out there, the answer is not food, it's water. Yes, you will get hungry, but without water you'll dehydrate. When you dehydrate, you are done. Game over. Katie bar the door. Fat lady sings. Thank you for playing the game. No matter how secure or remote your survival retreat is, if it doesn't have a natural water source, it's simply not suitable as a survival retreat. Now keep in mind that in a long-term critical event scenario, you could end up staying at your survival retreat for weeks, if not months or years. It would be near impossible to stock up enough water to remain in one location for that long. So, a natural source of fresh water at your survival retreat or very nearby is a determining factor. Now, water must be clean and drinkable. True. And if it's not, you'll have to get a water filtration system. A stagnant pond is not drinkable water without the use of a water filter. A running river, stream, fresh spring, or well are the best choices. You can also try rainwater harvesting, though you should never rely on rainwater as your sole water source. Be aware of any known contaminants in your water source as well. A survival retreat close to a chemical or nuclear plant is not a good idea. It just isn't. But here's a tip for you guys. If you're at your survival retreat now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, now's the time, go and get your water tested. It's very cheap. Very often they do it for free. Ask them, what are contaminants in here? What's the composition of my water? They can tell you all kinds of good stuff about your water, but you need to do it now. Because when the grid goes down, they ain't doing it. All right? Let's talk about food. Now, as with water, your survival retreat needs to have the opportunity to grow food. That's a garden for you people that were sabotaged in the public schools. Your survival retreat building needs to have plenty of food storage space. And you should stockpile as much food as you can. But eventually, you will run out. You need to be raising or growing additional food that you can fall back on when your stored food runs out, and it will eventually. There are 3 different options for additional sources of food at your bug out location. There's wild food that you can forage, there's space for gardening, and a space for raising livestock. Now, my question to you, if you got livestock, in your own opinion, and only you can answer this, what would be the most valuable animal you could have? You know, for me, it's the chicken. But that's mine. That's me. Johnny Vegas is telling you. For me, it's chickens. Right? There are multiple opportunities for foraging food. You can hunt or set traps for wildlife, go fishing in a river or lake, or you can pick edible berries and plants around your area as well. Thoroughly explore and inspect the land you are considering for your survival retreat before you make a purchase. Check to see there are plenty of fish in the natural water resource. Keep an eye out for signs of wildlife. Look for any edible plants that are growing in your area. As for gardening, now look, I likes up the garden. I can plant. I'm not a good planter. The wife plants better than I do. But I'm the better nurturer. And she just doesn't care once she gets it going. But that's me. That's just the way we work it out. It's okay. So you need to have enough space with good soil to grow a garden. that will provide you and your family with enough crops to survive for the duration of your time at the retreat. You don't want to be growing a garden while you're not there. And then checking on at regular times, because the local animals will make short work of your crops that you grow. Instead, just make sure that there is an area of good soil that you can use for growing a garden if needed. And then store the seeds and other gardening materials separately. Now, raising livestock is going to be the trickiest option for food at your survival retreat and may not be feasible. If you're not actually living at your retreat, it's going to be difficult raising livestock there by coming back and checking on them regularly. And even if you are raising livestock at your current home, it's going to be enormously difficult transporting them to the survival retreat when you bug out. Yes? Excuse me. So, nonetheless, if you get the opportunity to raise animals such as chickens or rabbits at your retreat in the event of a disaster, you should not pass it up. This means that there must be a secure pen and housing for your livestock, plenty of grain and animal feed stored away. And if you're going to be raising larger livestock, such as cattle, you need to have enough grazing land for them as well. That includes their own water supply. Animals and rodents could also get into your food, so make sure it's all secure. Let's talk about security and accessibility. A critical event period is going to be dangerous, meaning your survival retreat needs to be as secure as possible. The best way to make sure your retreat is secure is to hide it so that nobody knows about it. If hungry people discover your retreat, then it will only be a short matter of time before they come knocking on the door. So seclusion is the best defense for a survival retreat. This means choosing a remote location concealed by hills and or dense forest, and with as few homes as possible around. Oh, hold on. Time out. Hit the pause button. If you're going to be growing stuff, doing it in a dense forest is not going to get it done for you because, well, plants need what? Sunlight. Plenty of rain. And if you're in a dense forest, sunlight and plenty of rain will not do it. It won't get through your garden. So, I'm just throwing it out there. Concealed by hills, I've got no issue with. The dense forest, okay. Why don't you just go to the top of the mountain and shout out for joy? All right. Let's get back to it. But no matter how hidden your bug out location is, you still have to be prepared to defend it. And for this reason, your survival retreat needs to be on land that is naturally defensible. Flat terrain or open grasslands are horrible places for a survival retreat for this reason. On the other hand, rocky areas, steep mountains, or tall hills may be enough to deter intruders and allow you to set up decent defensive positions. Remember to check on your survival retreat and protect it in times of peace. You never know when someone will stumble into it while you're gone. It should be accessible via multiple routes so that if one way becomes blocked during a disaster, you have another route to use. There should be 2 driveways leading in and out of your retreat so you have an escape route if your retreat is ever invaded and you cannot defend it. Got it? Let's talk about sustainable energy, guys and gals, because we got 25% of our listeners are women folk. And guys, hear me out on this. Hear me out on this because this is true. Do not dismiss your partner, female. Whether she's your wife, girlfriend, shack up, one night stand, good prepper partner, do not discount what they have to say because women, unlike men, have a different perception. They perceive things in a different manner than men do. So it's always good to have another set of eyes that can talk and give you something maybe you have not thought about. I just want to put it out there, ladies. Am I right, ladies? Am I right? Huh? So there's a significant chance in a critical event situation that the power will go out, forcing you to rely on alternative sources of energy. Now, for this reason, you need to have at least 2 different energy sources of power that you can use at your survival retreat. The 3 best sources of sustainable energy are wind, running water, and the sun. If If you install wind turbines, for example, you can use the wind to pump water and provide your home with power. The problem with this is that if your home is in a secluded location and shielded by what? Dense trees and or mountains, there may not be enough wind for this to be feasible. Sunlight may be a more feasible option. However, as long as you have just one open area at your retreat location that receives enough sunlight during the day, solar panels that you install can take that sunlight and convert it into power for your home. But guess what? What if you're in the deep forest? Not going to work. Finally, a stream or river of running water can be used to deliver hydropower for your retreat. Now, hydropower can produce enough power for you to actually run big machinery if necessary. A combination of hydropower and solar power may be what you need to survive, in your survival retreat and to keep it up and running. Something to think about. So the conclusion is this. There is no such thing as a perfect survival retreat, but it is possible for you to come close to perfect it if you do enough searching. Now, it's a good idea to choose 2 or more survival retreats so that you always have a backup option. Yes, it's going to be more expensive this way, but if all of your routes to your first bug out location are blocked during disaster, having a backup retreat location could save your life. So, whatever the case may be, when you have no choice but to quickly leave your home during a critical event scenario, a survival retreat will be the place that keeps you and your family alive through the disaster. This means that having just one survival retreat is better than having none. And if you want to increase your chances of survival at that retreat, make sure you've planned for water, food, security, and alternative power to sustain you and your family indefinitely. Now, the author, Nick Otkin, he's a prepper. He's an outdoor enthusiast, but most of all, he's also a firearms expert. So, you know what? I like the article. Some of the stuff, you know what? I have a bit of an issue on it, but I got to tell you, 99% of it, I like it. Did I miss something? Did we miss something? Please feel free to comment. And, here on podbean.com, you can rate shows. iTunes, rate the show. Please, whatever your platform you are actually listening to us on, rate the show. Please, rate the show. Okay, if you didn't listen to the episode, rate the show anyways. Please. I'm begging you, man. I'm begging you. You gotta rate the show. Anyway. That's what we got for today. That's what I got for you today. We're gonna be. Let's see. What else did I want to talk to you about? You know what? I don't remember. I'll get to it next time. So, anyways, I'm John Jeffers here at the Contra Radio Network, saying thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for downloading. And best of all, for my prepper and patriot friends, I say this to you: be safe. Be alert. Be vigilant. I'm John Jeffers here on the Jeffers Brief on Contra Radio Network, only on Contra Radio Network. Have a good weekend. You know what? I may put up another episode before then. Why? Because this is becoming more and more important to me. It should be important to you. So, until next time, I'm John Jeffers. Thanks for listening and thanks for downloading the episode.